As soon as I found out we were making a Mr. Hopp's 2 musical, I knew I was going to be showing you how to make an evil panda and an evil tiger. So let's just get started. First, I bought 1 heck ton of fuzzy fabric and cut out a bunch of rectangles. The first rectangle was big enough to cover my front from shoulders to hips with lots of wiggle room. Like, lots. I folded the first rectangle in half and used it to cut out 2 more. Then I cut 2 more rectangles, a little longer than my arm and wide enough to, honestly, probably fit 2 arms, but why not? Then, because I was feeling fancy, I cut a ski slope into the top and made the side all slanty. This is completely optional because the suit could come together just fine with plain rectangles. Seriously, you won't even get a family curse out of it. But because I was fancy, I did have to go back to the first 3 rectangles, stack them on top of each other, and cut this J shape into the corner, then toss the pieces everywhere. No, wait, hold on. It's way too early to start making a mess. I also cut a very wide U into the top of the biggest rectangle. That was all I needed for one suit, but because I was having so much fun, I cut out all those pieces again for the second suit. I'm good with cutting rectangles without a pattern, but ovals? Whew, those scare me. So I taped 3 pieces of paper together, folded it into quarters, and cut myself the prettiest oval ever. Even the cats couldn't resist it. Then I made a second one about 1.5 inches smaller on all sides, which apparently was less appealing. I used the bigger pattern to cut 2 perfect ovals out of this white fuzzy fabric. You need proof that they're perfect? Just watch how this pattern lures my cat over for a second time, and how he tries to blend into the fabric to avoid being separated from them. No one tell him that his ears give him away. Then I used the smaller one to carve a hole right in the middle of both big rectangles and patched them by pinning in the brand new ovals. I sewed everything in place and just look at how well I fixed those holes. You can barely see where they were. While I was at my machine, I went ahead and sewed the front and back rectangles together at the top corners. I'll call those shoulders.
No, we can't sit there. We're gonna sit. Good. No trolls too.
You can't have a tiger without stripes, or you can, but people will confuse it for a pretentious lion, so I marked 6 places on each sleeve and cut out the tiniest pie slices I could manage. I started with the slices that weren't under my cat's tail and then worked my way down. If you don't have a cat to work around, flip a coin, roll a die, get a cat immediately to help you make your decisions? At the end, the sleeves looked like they'd lost a knife fight, so I guess I won. I cut 4-inch strips of fabric to fit into each slash and started carefully pinning them to either side of the slashes. I started at the bottom and worked—
Oh, no. Okay.
I started with the 3rd stripe from the bottom and—
No. Can I work on this one? Or are you gonna lay on that too?
I started with the 2nd stripe from the top and worked in whatever order my great cat overlord allowed. Seriously, how would I make decisions without him? I would like to take this moment to thank him for being a benevolent ruler, for understanding my plight and obligingly letting me nudge him from one end of the sleeve to the other while he slept. Is this a cat thing to do? Because stuff like this is what makes me occasionally tell my friends that I actually own a dog.
Stretchies, boy, in the woods. Can we move? What if I promised you riches beyond your wildest dreams? Mountains of cat treats. Oh, okay, that'll work.
I sewed all my stripes in just as I had pinned them and instantly wanted to go back in time to the 80s to enjoy the puffy jacket animal print trend. I should have put on leg warmers and a side pony for this shot. Unfortunately, pandas do not have cool arm stripes, but this one gets a little pink heart like a discount Care Bear, which also makes me want to go back to the 80s. I sewed all around the edge of the heart with a classy zigzag stitch to make sure it could never escape. Once all the little details were done, I pinned the sleeve to the body and sewed them down all around the throodle-boodle. Sorry. Armhole. The sleeves looked a little more like wings at this point, and also I had a hard time keeping the suit on unless I kept my arms straight out in my best impression of an airplane, but it's looking great. I decided to make linings for these suits. Basically just redid everything I'd already done in a thinner fabric, because the only thing more fun than doing things once is doing them over and over, like wandering through an endless, mesmerizing loop. Then I laid the linings on top of the outer parts and pinned them together just at the sleeve cuffs so that I could do a magic trick later. My other cat kept me company for this, and by kept me company I mean tried to camouflage herself into the spare black fabric in an effort to ambush me when I would least expect it. Of course, when I found her, she improvised a new plan of attack, securing her place as the fiercest little house predator. Sorry, Mr. Hopp, you're not that scary. Anyway, I sewed the cuffs together, then turned both the lining and the outside of the suits inside out to pin the sleeves into tubes and the sides into sides. I matched every seam so I ended up with 4 sections: side, sleeve, sleeve, side. So when I shouted abracadabra, alakazam, needle and threadicus, I could flip the outside right side out with a flick of the wrist and the lining is neatly attached and tucked inside. But I do have this suit on backwards. I sewed up the sides, then pinned in the zippers. I kind of had everything turned inside out again at this point and tucked the zipper right between the outside and the lining on both suits, sewed up both sides of the zips, and did one more magic trick to get everything facing the right way again. Ta-da! On your left, a beautiful black and white panda top complete with heart. On your right, an orange tiger with a whopping 12 stripes. But unfortunately, neither of them are wearing pants. I made these pants basically the same way I made Mr. Hopp's last year, so let's just do this as a speed round. I cut 2 giant pant legs that looked like this. Then I pinned both legs into tubes and sewed them up. Now I've got chaps. I realized I was being watched by the monster under the chair and pinned the tops of both legs together, sewed it up, pinned the bottom cuff up and the top waistband down, sew, then pinned the pants to the top so I'd never have to be embarrassed again. The monster tried to catch me but got distracted watching himself on TV, and I sewed the pants into place, giving me a full cuddly panda suit. I did the same on the other suit right after I wrestled the fabric away from the other monster. I needed heads for these suits because otherwise we'd have to run around making the scary faces ourselves, and that's just not a good idea. I was able to find a panda head online just fine, but the closest I could get to a tiger was this orange bear, so you can see which one needs the most work. I started by seam ripping the eyes out of both masks, which is not as violent as it sounds, but did require actual ripping.
I need Mr. Hopp's helmet, if possible.
Sure.
AJ has to hit me in the head with a dollar. Boom! How's that?
Die, Mr. Hopp!
The bear's eyes were smaller than I liked, so I flipped him inside out and cut an extra inch of the foam away on all sides, and thankfully that was all I had to take away, and the rest is about adding the spookiest things I could find. I used the eyes I ripped off to cut 3 new eyes, black as the void, and 1 gray as a button. I zigzagged an X across the button and cut out 2 mouths, black as the gaping maw of midnight. And lastly, I used this white felt to cut out as many teeth as a great white shark, but slightly less pointy. Which is scarier, I promise. I pinned the mouths to the heads, making sure to cover their previous innocent smiles. Then I hand-stitched them in place. I find hand-sewing fur to be wildly difficult and satisfying at the same time. Difficult because I can't see a thing I'm doing in all that fuzz. The threads just disappear. And easy because at the end, no one can see what I did. All those threads just disappear. Once the mouths were secure, I filled them with teeth and pins and did my best to give both animals slightly different toothy smiles, for realism or something. I also pinned the vacant, haunted eyes where they belonged, sandwiched between the foam and the outer fur, and then hot glued all of it.
Namiwi. Namiwi.
I don't even know what that is! Is it a verb? Is it a noun?
All of them.
If you have ever wondered what it is like at Random Encounters the night before we film, that was a pretty good example, but I have a few more if you'd like.
Didn't you have candy on Asgard? Fruits? Nuts?
Yo, I related to that line so much. Like oranges and almonds. That's what we had after dinner. And grapes.
You had like ice cream after dinner.
We had grapes and we counted them. We had like an allotment that we were allowed.
With this many grapes, my parents would have killed to get me to eat as many grapes as possible.
Nope, I'm pretty sure it was like 12.
I feel like my family's rule was like, just don't clean out the cookie jar.
Well, this is why Gwen will accept as much ice cream as we're willing to give her now.
Yes!
You grew up on Asgard.
I did. I am the goddess of hot glue and sparkles.
I'm drinking the soy sauce straight out of the bottle.
Don't drink the soy sauce straight out of the bottle.
I've been doing that.
At least
You know
put
what?
it in a
You know
cup. You know what I've never had?
Purpose.
Love from your parents.
Shit!
Candy.
Y'all are mean!
Thunder.
Well, this has all been great. All of this audio is being cut.
It's not. Most of this is gonna stay in.
After all that excitement was over, I had one creepy-looking panda that was almost finished and one creepy-looking bear that was still just dreaming of being a tiger. I dripped some hot glue on parchment paper, cooled it quickly in the freezer so it would keep its shape, then painted all the little drip marks black as a stack of black cats, and then I left them to dry. For my tiger's face stripes, I just cut bits and pieces of my black fuzzy fabric and kept cutting until I liked the way they all fit around the eyes and forehead. I also cut 6 squares and rolled them into quick, dangerous little spikes, then glued all the stripes to his face, then 3 spikes down each cheek. Someone in the comments is going to say something along the lines of, "Great, now do it again without cheating." Someone always does. And I generally blow raspberries in their direction. Sewing is great and most of the time does the best job, but sometimes the fastest, smartest option is just to glue it together. Here's a little flow chart for you. Does it need to be very bendy? Are you planning on putting it through the washing machine? Are you going to be pulling on it a lot? If that was 3 no's, then you can just glue it. And I'm going to very confidently tell you that as long as glue has existed, there's been someone gluing their clothes together, even though the earliest I've been able to verify that is the 14th century and humans have had glue forever. When the paint was dry, I glued 1 or 2 creepy little teardrops to the tiger, which was now complete, and to the panda, which maybe she looks too creepy now. I feel like we need to reel her back in with like a bow. I took the same fabric I used for her pants, measured the distance between her ears, and cut out 2 rectangles a little bit wider than that. Then I folded them in quarters, cut a question mark shape into the side, and ended up with 2 pieces that looked a little like dog bones. I stacked them wrong sides out, sewed most of the way there on the edge, leaving a little hole so I could stuff it full of fluff. Then I closed up the hole, wrapped a strip of cloth around the middle, sewed the strip together on the back, and had a beautiful bouncy bow, which I sewed to the top of my terrifying panda head. And, well, I might have actually made it creepier again. Did I say that the tiger was complete? What I meant to say is that to keep him from getting jealous of her bow, we need to cut him a pretty blue tie. I did basically the same thing, cut 2 layers, sewed them around the edge, but instead of stuffing it, I ironed it flat. And then I made the face that everyone makes when trying to remember how to tie a tie. Of course, I ended up doing what everyone does, wrapping it into a rough triangle and cutting off the bits I didn't like. Then I stitched it down tight while AJ and Nate stole my bookshelf. Still a very normal night at Random Encounters. Tigers, it turns out, also have tails, so I took a wide strip of orange cloth, folded it in half, and sewed down the side and across one end. I flipped it right side out and stuffed it full of fluffy cotton. Then I glued 6 black stripes to the top, then threaded the whole tail through the tail hole I'd left in the back of his pants and pinned it in place. To close the fluff inside, I cut a circle of fabric and sewed it and the end of the tail into the inside of the pants. And lastly, I cut 2 more wide strips for collars. I sewed the ends shut, flipped them right side out, and pinned them around the necks of the suits. I sewed the orange one to Mr. Stripes, the black one to Miss Belle, and they were finished. Add some fluffy white gloves, some fluffy white slippers, and you're ready to go trick-or-treating with your 2 best friends. But it's only August, so I don't know if anyone's gonna give you candy. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more of these costumes in action, you can check out the musical, maybe for a 2nd, 3rd time. And if you want to see me make more things, I've got plenty of that too. Beard salute! Oh!